The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, UNU Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Ask for Candy. Hi, Armed Radio peeps who just came in. I've already been talking to a couple of my Facebook peeps. Welcome to Ask for Candy, where we talk about healing, self-care, love, sex, relationships, and what it takes to be amazing on the daily. Because we try to be amazing on the daily. Sometimes we fall a little bit short. Nothing wrong with that, as long as we get back on the horse. Happy Veterans Day to everybody. This is a day that we get to honor all who have sacrificed and served and for our freedom. And for one, my papa who's Master Sergeant in the U.S. Air Force, veteran, retired, and all the other servicemen and women out there who, have fought for our freedom. Thank you so much. Happy Veterans Day. We honor you. Have a great day. Hope you had a great day. Anyway, who I am Candace Harper, lovecoach.com, and I help hardworking women and couples who have survived abuse be vibrant, alive, magnetic, and passionate while creating healthy, intimate relationships. And I'm coming to you from North Jersey, honey. I'm in northern New Jersey, which I love it. It's beautiful. Like I was saying last week, it's fall, it's gorgeous, the foliage is everywhere, the wildlife is everywhere. And so all season long, we are talking about healing the mother-daughter relationship and what that takes. And let me tell you, I'm glad I gave it a whole season because there's a lot that goes into it. And we've been talking to mothers, daughters, healers, experts. But the last few shows, I've been flying solo because I really wanted to start, talking to you guys and really interacting with you and having conversations between us. I feel like whenever I have a guest, it's great. I love having the guest, but I end up really engaged in my conversation with the guest, and I don't get to interact as much with you guys. So, I've been doing it solo. I've been wanting to really connect and, just pull you into the conversation too. And tonight we're going to talk about a question I have heard often, a topic that has come up, and something that I have to be completely honest about, that I have had a lot of anxiety around sometimes. Because I don't know if you guys have ever heard that term, imposter syndrome, but it describes what we all feel when we endeavor to do something, or if we want to do something, we desire to do something that is like our full self-expression or creative, or, things that feel purposeful, things that feel aligned with who we are, our inner selves. Whenever we want to do those things, we often get this thing called imposter syndrome. I don't know anybody who has ever said, no, I've never felt that way, who's tried to do anything that's bigger than their comfort zone. I don't know anyone who's not felt that way. So this question of, the question I get, how are you single and a relationship coach, is a question that for the longest time triggered my imposter syndrome. I would think to myself, how is that? How am I, who am I to be doing this? Which I was thinking that anyway, because it's part of the human condition, right? And so, people would say why should I trust your advice? You're not in a successful relationship, especially after I was no longer in a relationship. That conversation was coming up. So what I wanted to do with this podcast is talk about the misconceptions that are required in order to even ask that question. Because I've done a lot of, research around it and thinking about it, because I am an overthinker, and, looked into why that question would even come up, and also why it was triggering me in the way that it was, and, what that really is about. And it's taken some time to truly understand Because I have very successful clients. And so it's taken me some time to truly understand why I was being triggered. Knowing what I know and experiencing what I've experienced and having clients that do great and clients that love to work with me and, you know, lots of great reviews and never a complaint. knock on wood. I had to go down a journey of figuring out, what it was. And I figured it out. I figured it out well enough that I'm now ready to share it with you. Anyway, but before we do that, you are listening to Armed Radio, maybe on your smart device using the TuneIn app, or you're in the garden on armedradioglobal.com. If you want to listen later, you can catch us on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, etc. Links are in the description. Or maybe you're live here with us on the Facebook. Like my ladies, I know I got my Kenya, I know I got my Beth. This Facebook is saying somebody else. I'll let you guys trickle in. And, as you participate, I'll call you out because I like to do that. And if you're live on the Facebook, you can be in the conversation. Also, if you think of things during the course of the show and you want to talk about it, or you want to reach out to me about it, but you don't necessarily want to be on the live, or if you're at home, you can email me as well, askforcandypodcast@gmail.com. And anything you email me, I will, if you ask me to, I'll address it directly on a later show. But if not, and you want to stay anonymous, I'll make it a topic and I will talk about it. So feel free to email me, askforcandypodcast@gmail.com. Now, normally this is the time where I say, this is the time on Ask for Candy when we share. And that's when we would be sharing to all of our groups and pages and things like that. I already did what I needed to do. I'm already on my main page, already shared in my group. So you guys go ahead, while we're getting this conversation started, share wherever you want to share, wherever you think you should, and let's get started. I'm ready to go. Like I said, I'm CandiceHarperLoveCoach.com. My talent is conversation. My passion is personal growth. My purpose is to teach and inspire radical self-acceptance in myself and others so that we can all have our best possible love life. And that is why this is a conversation. I'm not here to hand down a bunch of dating or relationship rules or rights and wrongs, and you'll find out why with this topic tonight. I'm not here to shame your love situation. My only intention is to create audacious intimacy, seductive singlehoods, and healthy relationships. And so tonight and every Monday night, we're going to do what it is that we do, which is have conversations that engage, educate, and or enlighten all of us in the areas of love, sex, relationships, and vibrating high. So let's dive into this juicy topic. And Beth, Kenya, if you guys, have any comments, as always, you are welcome, or any questions, anything you want to say, you're always welcome during the course of the show, and anybody else who comes on. So, like I said, questions that I often get. Here's one. Why should I listen to your advice? You're single. Now, that's a question that I would get from someone who's single and doesn't want to be, or somebody who's in a relationship. And usually it's from people who are somehow confronted by the conversation, feeling like whatever I'm telling them is not the direction that they want to go in. And as a coach, I run into that a lot because it's always those things that we're resistant to, those things that we don't want to look at, that we don't want to be confronted by, that we then go into our defense mechanism. So one thing I have learned about this question of why should I take your advice, you're single, is that there's a level of a defense mechanism in it. Because why should I listen to you is a way of deflecting what it is you're actually saying to me, because I'm triggering something in you because should be listening to whatever that is. What do you know about relationships? I mean, come on. What gives you the authority and the skills to guide me? I love that one too. Well, here's the thing about authority and skills. Authority and skills. Skills are very important. It's very important to educate ourselves. It's very important to train ourselves when we, set ourselves up as an authority on anything. However, there's no getting it done. There's always something new to be learned about every single thing. So, I set myself up not as an authority because I wouldn't say I have mastered any of this stuff. But what I set myself up as is someone who has learned a modicum of skills that I sometimes apply to my own life and I sometimes don't, because I'm a human being. So sometimes I'm successful at it and sometimes I fail at it. And my only expectation with someone that I'm coaching is that I can teach them those skills and that they can have the awareness of whether they're using them or not. And when they need to use them, can use them to their benefit. So that answers that question. However, what I want us to kind of like dig into so that people have kind of a real understanding, especially if you're someone out there who's like, you know, why should I be listening to any coach? Why should I be listening to anybody? If you want to develop a real understanding of why, not necessarily working with me, any coach, any therapist, anyone who's worth their salt, why it's worth it and why you should do it and why it shouldn't be about whether or not they are single. Because here's the thing too, let's put this aside. If I were telling you that I could teach you how to make $10 million and I hadn't made $10 million, that would be a very valid and specific argument, right? Because that has a logical set of steps. And granted, you know, being able to make $10 million does require your creativity and your intuition and all of that stuff and being able to listen to yourself, but it also has logical, scientific steps that you can take to get to that goal. So you wouldn't want to talk to someone or take advice from someone who had never made $10 million, who's telling you how to make $10 million, right? But when it comes to relationships, the difference with relationships and connections with people is that there is no set of rules that you can place on what you're supposed to do in a relationship or as it pertains to another person. The answers for what you do in any given situation, in your situation, are within you. No one has the authority to tell you what your steps are supposed to be in order to get the outcome that you want to get in your relationship. But here's the thing. I want to, without making it too confusing and too multi-layered, I want to talk to you about what coaching actually is and what it means to be coached, so that you understand that it's not, you know, like what you watch on TV and what you listen to on the radio when, you know, or, you know, what you read in Steve Harvey book, you know, telling you to wait 90 days, that you understand that it's not about following somebody's set of rules or someone's advice based on what they've experienced. So let's first talk about like the preconceived notions about it and what coaching definitely is not. So even though a lot of people write books, they write books about, you know, how to get women into bed, or, you know, how to catch that man and keep him, and how to do this and how to do that, and, you know, all of that stuff. It can be a lot of fun. I don't have anything against it. However, that's not what I do as a coach. So it's not teaching skills to catch, keep, or manipulate anyone into being in your life. It's not that. So, and the thing about all of those things and learning those skills, like, you know, learning pickup artist skills and, you know, learning how to be a dutiful wife, like whatever you want to call it. The thing about those skills is that they absolutely work, and they work whether you're emotionally strong enough or emotionally healed enough or not. Like, you can pull somebody into your life with tactics, but what you're pulling into your life is somebody who's vibrating on the same level you're vibrating. So if you're someone who's been sad and lonely and you're desperate for a relationship and you read a Steve Harvey book and now you've got all these skills for how you can pull them into your life and fool them into marrying you, you're going to end up with a certain outcome. You're going to end up with a certain impact. So that's what coaching is not. It's not pickup artist skills. It's not, this is what you're supposed to do if your husband won't take out the trash. That's not what it is. It's not influencing your choices. So, you know, coaching is to help you find your inner knowing and help you find your intuition and your trust for yourself. That's what coaching is, to support you in doing, right? So it's not for you, it's not to tell you that the choices you made are wrong or that you should make this choice or that choice. And I know that a lot of times that's what people want. Because I even have a friend, I'm not going to mention her name, but she used to say to me, give me my words, because she'd want me to advise her and tell her exactly what to say in any given situation. And the problem with doing that is that if I tell you what to say and I tell you exactly what to do and I tell you what choice to make, I'm telling you those things based on my perspective of your situation, of a relationship that I am not in. And so the chances that whatever I tell you to do are going to work, I guess maybe they're 50-50 or whatever, but I'm not actually empowering you with anything. What I'm actually just doing is sort of, pulling your puppet strings. And then as soon as you do whatever you do, if it doesn't work, then you can blame me for it, or, then you're in the same situation. Or if it does work it's not sustainable, right? So the idea here is, coaching is not influencing your choices. Coaching is not trying to indoctrinate you to any kind of dogma. So if you hear somebody who's like, if you don't do it this way, or if you don't follow this guru, or you don't, it's not religion. Like, if you are religious or you practice a religion, that's great. That can be very supportive to your healing and your self-love and all that stuff too, as well. But that's not what coaching is. It's not about trying to indoctrinate you into any idea. So if anybody tries to do that, you know that you're not properly being coached. It's not clinical therapy. So, I've been studying personal growth and life mastery tools probably for about 25 years. I am not a clinical therapist. I do not prescribe medications. If I meet someone who is so resistant to the process and, they don't have the cognitive ability to get the blocks out of the way, I always refer them to a clinician. So, by giving myself the label and the authority of coach, I'm not saying that I'm curing anybody of anything. It's not medical. It's not any of that. And then the last sort of preconceived notion that I was thinking about, and you guys may have others that come up. It's not a set of rules you need to follow in order to be doing relationships right. And that is the biggest, most sabotaging preconceived notion that I think most people have, and why so many relationships go to shit. Because you think that there's some set of rules that if you were doing them, you'd be doing it right. Or that, there's some perfection that you're trying to meet, or some standard or something. I don't know what it is, if it's school, if it's religion, if it's, just our society, our culture. There's something that says to us that, there's some set of rules we're supposed to be following in order to have things right. And I think as we go on as a society, this set of rules gets more and more sort of bastardized. Like, if you're not making a certain amount of money, or living in a certain neighborhood, or if your marriage doesn't look a certain way, or, if your kids don't go to the right school, like all of that stuff that we apply, whatever your stuff is that's been applied to you, that you think you're supposed to be achieving in a relationship. Like, coaching is not about trying to get you to follow some set of rules, or, doing it right, trying to find some way to do it right. But let me tell you what it is, so that you have a good concept of why we do it and, what it's all about. Coaching is guidance into your own inner knowing, which I mentioned earlier. Like, what I do is I guide people into understanding and listening to their own intuition. It's really, really about being able to get in touch with yourself. And the thing about our culture and our society and our conditioning is that is not often what we are taught. I'm not saying that it's 100% for everybody, because there's a lot of people out there who are very much in touch with who they are as people, who, what they're living into, what their visions are that they're creating. There's a lot of people out there that are very much in touch with that, because someone guided them in a way that had them understanding that their opinions and their feelings were valid. Someone taught them that what they think about life is important. Somebody taught them that, that their desires, their self-expression, their talents, their creativity, that all of that has value. Someone taught them that. Not many of us. Because you think about it, generations before us, nobody taught them that either. So it's not common. It's not common to come from, be in your early 20s, come from a family having been raised, and then you have such a great understanding of yourself and your self-expression, your worth, and you can get into a relationship and have a perfect relationship. That is not a common thing. So, what I do is I help people go down that journey of understanding, loving themselves, and being guided by their own inner knowing, not needing permission outside of themselves, the release of the need for approval, knowing how to be self-approved, knowing how to know your own purpose, know who you are, stand in who you are. Like, that's what coaching is. Coaching is a witness and accountability for what you say you want for yourself. Because if you guys are anything like me, hi, my Darlene, if you guys are anything like me, you say you want certain things for yourself, and then what you do in real life is a completely different story and does not align with what it is that you say you want. So, for the longest time, I was saying I wanted to be a coach and I wanted to start a coaching business. And that's what I wanted to be doing, right? I talked about it a lot. I talked about it all the time. And at least for the first few years, I was, analysis paralysis, whatever you want to call it, not getting anything done. I say I want to have a completed book that's on the New York Times bestseller list. But, for the longest time, I wasn't writing. I just knew I wanted to write a book. And so we all have things like that. And so what I coach around is, if I say what I want is a healthy relationship, what I coach you to do is be accountable for what it would take to get in a space of so much good health that you can have a healthy relationship, that you can have what you want, or that you will attract what you want. So I help to hold you accountable for that. I'm like a witness to that, especially if you're single, because then you don't have a partner to be witnessing what you're doing, right? And if you're not single and you're in a breakdown with whoever your partner is, then to have the support of somebody else to help you get back to who you are and get in touch with yourself in order to transform your relationship is really important. So that's what coaching is. Coaching is teaching tools to get yourself out of your way. Like, what I teach is how do I get myself out of the equation? How do I get myself out of my own way? When I feel challenged by the relationship I'm in, or, being single and not being able to feel okay about it, or just when I feel challenged by myself, how do I get myself out of my own way? I have a coach. I have somebody who, understands what it means to support me through that, and can give me exercises that might shift my mind, shift my thoughts, my beliefs, if I try them, if I'm open to it. And can, like I said, help me get to know myself and what it is that I need. It's support for my life mastery. And we all need it. Because that's the point of, this is why we're here. It's to be living and experiencing and mastering life. And, mastering who we say we are, who we want to be, who we choose to be. We're not here to be living in misery. But so many of us do. Now, I say that, and now know that there's a lot of horrible things that go on in this world. I'm not, discounting any of that. I'm not pretending like people don't go through some very difficult things. But one thing that's very common in our society is this elongation of misery. So, there's a trauma, and then it just goes unhealed for years, then decades, and then a whole lifetime. And that's not what we're here for. We weren't sent here to live in misery and to be miserable. We weren't sent here to, fear for our lives. We weren't sent here to disconnect, isolate ourselves from anybody else. We're sent here to actually have a human experience and to enjoy it. I mean, I'm not saying that if you're not enjoying, if you're enjoying not enjoying it, let me not take that away from you, because if that's what you want to be doing, I haven't met anybody yet who is enjoying their non-enjoyment. But I've met a lot of people who believe that life is hard and believe that the challenges that come up are worth the suffering, and don't understand that it's our mindset and it's the way that we think and it's the way that we see things and the words that we choose that actually create our experience. People hate to hear that a lot of times because it puts a lot of responsibility on us for our own lives. But that's what coaching is. It's learning how to understand that and be good with it. Because no one wants to hear that. Like, what I find is that there's so many coaches out there that are saying to you, oh, it's not your fault that, this horrible thing. And, I hate these people who I don't hate them. I don't hate anybody. But when people sit around and they talk about narcissism and they have all these rules for what you're supposed to do when you're dealing with a narcissist and what you're supposed to look out for, how you have to be careful of it, how to mind your P's and Q's, and how if you're watching this, you're the empath and you're the victim, and, you're dealing with this narcissistic person, and here's all the things that you're going to need to do about it. No, I'm not saying that there aren't narcissists out there, but first of all, most of us are narcissists. And if you are in a victim space and you are unhealed, whether you know it or not, your behavior is probably just as narcissistic as the narcissist that you're dealing with. But one thing that we hate to hear and we hate to consider a lot of times is that, it really is our responsibility to change our experience. And when we are aligned with filling ourselves up and are, being in touch with our inner knowing who we are and standing in who we are, we don't keep those kinds of people in our lives because they can't stay. There's that old cliche that misery loves company. So that's why so many people are miserable together. Because that's what we attract. We attract other people who are on the same vibration as us. So the point of coaching is to open up a different world of how I choose to believe, and we do choose our beliefs, and how that affects the experience that I'm having, and giving support on how I continue to change my beliefs. Because I know a lot of people who go to like personal growth seminars for a weekend, or they go to a class or read a book or have an experience, and they feel so great and motivated, and within a few days they're right back to where they were before. Nothing has changed. They're still, bickering with their significant other, or they're still isolated and lonely and hating their life. They're still, on a consistent sort of journey of discontentment and unhappiness. So the point of coaching is to support with when you want to transform that, and you want to get responsible, and you want to take charge of your own life, and you want to be powerful. That's all it is. So it doesn't require for me to advise people on the steps that they should take within their relationship, as far as like, if he says this thing to me, what should I do? If he's cheating on me, how do I handle it? I address those things in the sense that I redirect. So if I'm complaining about my partner, if I'm complaining about my lack of partner, if I'm complaining about any aspect of my life, the only thing that I can do is look at what I have control over, which is myself, turn inward, and figure out, why is this thing triggering me? What is it about this thing that has me feeling the way that I'm feeling? And what is it that I need to heal in order for this thing not to be fucking with me the way that it is? Excuse my French, but that's what it comes down to. And so it doesn't require for me to be in a relationship. What it requires is for me to use my natural gift. My natural gift is to be able to help people get to a place where they can listen to themselves. I have a natural gift for it. Natural gift for listening and understanding other people. Even though I have a ton of coaching training, it all speaks to what I intuitively was doing even before I started training, which was asking questions, getting an understanding of what someone wants, what they want to be creating for themselves, what they see for themselves, and helping them begin to listen to themselves and understand that they are enough. And so that is what coaching actually is in the first place. And why I say that it has nothing to do with whether you're single or in a relationship. And so here's the thing about the other misconceptions, that not only have people asking that question and listening to the wrong people, but also, why so many relationships struggle and don't work out, and why so many people are also unhappy single, unhappy either way. Because societally, we have a lot of misconceptions around what love and relationships are. And so this is another reason why someone would ask this question of me or anybody else who, is single and actually coaching people in relationships. So people think that our purpose is to partner and procreate. Right? I don't know. At some point, we were sold this bill of goods that our reason for being is to just procreate. Now, procreation is definitely an important part of the human experience, because obviously it keeps us going, right? It keeps us existing. But as individuals, especially now as overpopulated individuals, it is not our purpose to partner and procreate. It is our purpose to, like I said, have the best possible human experience that we can. Now, partnering and procreating can be a huge component of that. Absolutely, 100%. But if you think that your value is in who you partner with, and your value is in getting in relationships with people, then you will be disappointed because you put a lot of expectation on what connections with other people are supposed to be. Because in fact, our partnerships, our romantic partnerships, our friendships, our co-working partnerships are all there as a support to our purpose, if we're framing them in a way that's going to work, right? It doesn't make sense to be in a relationship if you're in a relationship with someone who squashes you. It doesn't make sense to be in a relationship if they don't align with who it is that you choose for yourself to be. What a lot of people do is they squash who they really are in order to be in a relationship with somebody just to be in a relationship, right? That happens pretty often. But it's a big misconception that it's about a relationship. Your life's goal is not about being in a relationship. Relationships are great. I have nothing against them. But they're not your life's goal. Your life's goal is not singlehood either. The life's goal is to be as self-aligned and purposeful as possible. And anybody that you allow in your life, if they align with that, you're going to have sustainability with them. Another misconception is, like I was saying earlier, that there is some sort of set of rules that you can follow in order to have a successful relationship. There is no set of rules. Now, you can follow a set of rules and stay in a relationship, which is very different than having a successful connection with somebody. So there are people who stay together, and I feel like this is the smaller percentage, who stay together because they truly, truly love one another. They overflow into each other, and they're there to serve. There are definitely people who stay together for that reason. I think there's a larger percentage of people who stay together because they're following a rule book, and they think that that's the rules. And no matter how miserable they get, no matter how unhappy, it makes them to be with that person, or the fact that they're unhappy because there's no growth or transformation in the relationship, they push and they push and they stay because they think that they're meeting some sort of standard or they're following some level of rules, right? So that's a big misconception that, it's just about following the rules, when in fact it's really about understanding yourself and understanding when something's aligned with you or not. Understanding when someone is aligned with you or not, right? So that you can be full and overflow. Also, another misconception is that there is only one soulmate out there for you. So I feel like this is so sabotaging, especially for single people in particular. But, for people in relationships too, because a lot of times people will stay in a crappy relationship because I was in a crappy relationship where in my head, deep down inside, I knew this person wasn't aligned with me and wasn't right for me. But in my head, I kept telling myself, oh, but he's my soulmate. We're so much alike. We're so much alike because we were both miserable. That's why we were so much alike. We were both vibrating low. That's why we had so much in common, and I kept telling myself, he's my soulmate. He's my soulmate. And that had me stay a lot longer than I would have if I was in my right mind about it. And if I was really focusing on staying aligned with who I am and being purposeful, if that's where my head was at, that relationship wouldn't have lasted as long. So this idea that there's some magical soulmate and there's only one out there, and, I got to find that one, it makes single people miserable because, it sets you up for failure. And it makes a lot of people in relationships miserable because it sets you up for staying in something that you have no business staying in. So another misconception of love and relationships. And then another one is that having a partner is going to give you what you refuse to give yourself. So we end up either single and feeling like we're not enough and, hoping that one day we'll have that thing that will make us seem okay, at least from the outside, or, we'll meet that relationship and then we'll be able to give ourselves permission to be happy and everything will be okay. And a lot of times even people who tell you that, and know that that's not the case will still deep down inside feel that way because that's what we've been taught to feel. Right? But then also, people in a relationship, it's like that constantly expecting. I expect you to fill me up. I expect you to do this. I have a couple that I'm working with right now, and their constant problem is that they have these high expectations of each other, and they're constantly disappointing each other because they're not there to give into the relationship. They're there for what they can get out of the relationship. That's preach, sister. Amen. Thank you, honey. And Kenya says, I can't say that I have ever found my soulmate. Well, good. Because it's not about finding your soulmate. I mean, I think what can happen is when we choose it, and when we're in a space of like healthy self-loving, what can happen, and I don't mean to take all the romance out of it. I know that we've been sold this bill of goods of like, that it's this romantic thing and you're going to know. But what it is it's finding people who we find a willingness to overflow into. And when we're self-loving and we're unconditional with ourselves, most people that you meet are going to be people that you want to overflow into on some level. And a soulmate or, someone who was perfect for you is not something you know until you've been with that person. They always interview those old couples who've been together for 70, 80 years. And it's like, oh, well, how'd you do it? It's like, it's a stupid question. How did you stay together all that time? It's like they chose each other over and over again. You don't know you're with a soulmate until you're at the end of your life, and that's it. Then you can say, okay, obviously that was my soulmate, or my life's mate, I should say, my life's mate, because we were able to stay together and make it work, and we were happy, and only you truly know that. But to be in a place where it's like, I have to find my soulmate, I have to find this person who's this perfect person for me. Your soulmate is you. You have to be this perfect person for you. And then you will attract people who align with that. And, some will align with that more than others will align with that. And the one that aligns with it the most, you can call them a soulmate if you want to, but being able to overflow onto that person comes from you being able to mate with yourself. It has nothing to do with having found that right person. It has nothing to do with, doing some sort of search and then all of a sudden running into this person that's perfect for you. And you, like I said, you won't know they're perfect for you until you've been with them for 60, 70 years or whatever, however long. Right? Yeah. So, those are some of the misconceptions that I think has people asking questions like, how can a single person, be a coach for people in a relationship? Because the one thing I feel like, and I want people to understand more than anything in the world, and I even want myself to understand it better and better every day if I can, is that our relationship with ourselves and our willingness to feel good and experience life in a positive way and fill ourselves up is 100% absolutely what gives us sustainability with other people. And whether it's just friendships, whatever it may be, it is 100% the thing that has us powerful enough to have a successful relationship. And the reason that so many relationships fail is because we don't go in knowing that, and we are looking for that relationship to do something for us that we are not doing for ourselves. And it can't. Like, it just doesn't have that ability. We're already 40 minutes in. How the hell did that happen? We're already 40 minutes in. So yeah. And so let's talk about some relationship truths. Kenya says, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You roll it around in your head a little bit. The whole soulmate thing, I think when you're single and when you're in a relationship that's not working, if you can let that go, it takes a lot of burden off your shoulders. Right? Just let it marinate for a little bit. So then let's talk about some of the love and relationship truths. And yes, they are truths that I know to be truths, and maybe some other people know to be truths, and you may or may not agree with me. So, like I said, I'm not pushing a dogma. You don't have to agree with me. I'm just, and I'm not talking about right or wrong. I'm just talking about workability and unworkability, and what we want is workability, right? So, and I said this one already, the purpose of a relationship is to have someone with whom you can overflow into each other. So if you're someone who is unconditionally self-accepted and you are loving yourself and you attract that into your life, you'll know that you've attracted that into your life because you'll be able to overflow onto them, and you'll feel them overflowing onto you, and you don't have to look for it. You don't have to set high expectations. You don't have to always be questioning whether they're really in it, if they really like you, if they really want you. You won't have to do any of that stuff. You just won't have to. It's so much easier when you can just fill yourself up, because that's what it's about. It's about filling yourself up and stop needing other people to fill the holes and take care of the healing and all. Well, fill the holes. That's a whole nother show. But you know what I'm saying? We're not talking sexually. To what's empty inside of you, like those expectations. It's like what it is asking someone to fill what's empty and what you're not willing to fill in yourself. Another relationship truth: the triggers and conflicts we encounter in relationships are there to show us who we are and give us an opportunity to grow. So, Kenya, earlier you were saying about that you've never met your soulmate. And, the thing I would say about that too, and for those of us who have gotten to a certain point in life, all these people that we meet and these people that we get in and out of relationships with, and I've had my share, they are there for a reason. They're there to show us who we are in that moment of our lives, not who we are forever, because we always are the possibility of whatever we want to be and whatever we choose to be. But the reason we meet these people and these relationships that don't work out, the reason that we have unworkability or what feels like unworkability, is because there's something to be gained for us. There's some growth to be gained. And one thing I learned about, my last long-term relationship, which was a volatile, abusive relationship, I'm so grateful to him, because what he showed me about myself is that I had spent most of my adult life, and, the reason that I do what I do now and teach radical self-acceptance is that I had spent most of my adult life not loving myself and not believing that I was enough, and still being in my old historical shame story. And whether it was shame about being a woman, or shame about my sexual history, or shame about not doing things right. Like, I came from generational trauma, and with generational trauma, there's shame, and I was taught to be shameful. So no matter what my experience would have been up until then, that's what I knew, was to be shameful and to not love myself in a way that was authentic and unconditional. And so I met this person who also came from, although their background was different, came from an experience that had them very shameful and not very self-loving. And when two unself-loving people collide, if you've ever been in an abusive or a traumatic relationship, you know that what's happening is you got two people who are fighting for their healing and fighting for their betterment, but they don't know how to do it. They have no idea. They don't know what the tools are. They think that other person is going to be able to do or be or have something that's going to make it okay. It's like you're trying to force that person to be your medicine. And it's why it's so addictive. It's why abusive relationships are so addictive. Because you feed into, like, emotionally and affectionately and sexually, and all of that gets fed. You get fed all of this feeling like it's connection, and you get so addicted to it because you think that they're healing something for you in those moments. And especially if you're when you're love bombing each other, because I truly do believe that, it's not, there's a narcissist and there's an empath, there's a victim and there's an abuser. Granted, a lot of times one person does best the other person as far as beating them up physically or emotionally, but when you are in an emotionally abusive relationship, you will also have narcissistic behaviors, and that narcissism comes from being an unhealed victim. I don't want to get too deep into the layers of that, because that's a whole nother show as well. But, it's really, ultimately, it's really about letting that person be a mirror. Like, how did I end up trying to sustain something or holding on to this person who is who they are in my life and causing what they're causing in my life? Like, where's my head at? I got to be willing to look at, how did I get myself into this situation, and how do I get myself out of it, which is what I had to do. Because you can't wait for your abuser to change or save you or turn around or turn it around or make it better or any of that. It's my abuser is showing me what's going on in my internal landscape. And so what do I do about that? What am I saying to myself that is making it okay for this person to be in my life and wreaking havoc in it? Who am I being that I'm letting that be the case? And who am I being for myself, right? So that's one thing that when it comes to these relationships, it's like when we're willing to look at what other people do within a relationship with us as a possibility for growth and a possibility for pointing at what needs to be healed, then, we get to use the relationship for what it's there for, which is to grow and to heal us, right? Another love and relationship truth. Love is actually easy. I know you've been sold the bill of goods. I know people have written a million songs about it, that love is supposed to be challenging. Love is hard. Love is this. Love is that. Love itself is easy. It's our expectations of other people that make it difficult. And our expectations are not love. We think that they are, because a lot of times that's what we were raised. We were raised on expectation. Our parents had an expectation that we be whatever it was they wanted us to be in their own way, however your parents taught you to be. Whether it's that they wanted you to be smart in school, or they wanted you to, follow their religion, or be a certain type of woman, a certain type of man, whatever. There was a lot of expectations set on us, usually in the way that we're raised. If you had enlightened parents, then that's fantastic. Good for you. There's a lot of us out there whose parents, were of a generation that they did not learn how to do that. No one taught them how to do that. So as parents, what they knew to do was to set expectations. And if the expectations weren't met, then there was disappointment, there was anger, you were in trouble, you were shamed, you were told that you were not right. So with that, as adults, what we look for in our relationships is the repetition of that same pattern. The falling short, the not enoughness, the disappointment, the expectation. You didn't do what I wanted you to do. You didn't show up like I wanted you to show up. You didn't act the way I wanted you to act. So now I'm mad at you, and now I've been mad at you enough times that we're going to get a divorce. Or you're supposed to be my go-to for all the bad shit that happens in my day, and because you don't know how to do that, then you must not love me. This is not a real relationship. I'm unhappy. I don't want to be here anymore. We've heard all the old stories. We're so conditioned to think that love is hard because of these things. Love is hard is because our expectations are impossible. These expectations that the partner that we're with is supposed to fill us up. And then when you're single, this expectation that there's supposed to be someone who comes in and saves the situation. Like, the reason it's hard to be single is because there is that expectation. So Stephen Stewart, hey, from Glasgow, Scotland. Hi, Stephen. Can I have a reading, please? Well, I'm not giving readings, Stephen. I'm not doing. I mean, maybe the jewelry fooled you. I'm not doing like tarot readings or anything like that. But my friend Beth, who's actually on here, she gives readings, and she's a psychic, and she does all of that. So maybe I'll put you guys together, and she can give you a reading. Anyway, so yeah, that's another thing. Love is actually easy, because if you're filling yourself up and you're looking to overflow, and you understand and you're patient that whoever you're partnering with or not partnering with, you understand that your acceptance of wherever they're at, wherever they're not at, if they're not within your sphere, that it's okay, and you have faith and understanding and acceptance with yourself. There's ease. There's ease. And take it from someone who has been single for 2 different chunks of time. One chunk of time when I did not love myself, and a more recent chunk of time when I'm learning what it means to master self-love and unconditional love for myself. And there's so much more ease when there's not an expectation that somebody come in and fill it up for me. So much more ease. So, and, I use myself as an example, but, generally. Stephen says, are you a love coach? I am, but I don't know if I would call what I do readings, Stephen, but we could definitely chat. Kenya says, yes, I have always had expectations that were never met, and I thought that I was seeking love. Yeah. I mean, you're not alone, Kenya. I feel like that's so many of us. That's what we think we're doing. We think we're looking for love when those expectations aren't met. We think, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. But no, what we're doing is we're out there. Fill me up. Give me what I need. Are you doing what I'd like for you to do? Do you, fit in with what I think I should have? Are you good enough? Are you this? Are you that? Are you going to be the one that saves my situation? Are you going to make me okay? That's what we're really doing, and it doesn't work. it's like setting ourselves up for disappointment. This time goes by so fast. It's already 8:52. All right, so what's another relationship truth? You can't fix an internal problem by changing your external. So whether you're single or in a relationship, because I know a lot of people in relationships who think, okay, if I get out of this relationship, it's going to be better. If I get in a relationship, it's going to be better. A relationship will reflect exactly where you are emotionally, yes. And a singlehood will also reflect exactly where you are emotionally. Our tendency to complain and hate our experience and to have a bad experience, whether it's with or without someone, has 100% to do with an internal issue that's going on, an internal unhealing, an internal thing that we don't want to look at, an internal conflict. It's 100% on the inside. Even when you're sitting and complaining about what somebody else did, and I've known many people who complain about their partners and they think it's their partner's fault. I had a couple the other day who they arranged a session, and it's always the one who's like, we got to have a session right now, who thinks that the partner's the problem and they're going to fix the partner, and really they're the problem. Or they're, up to something, or they're thinking something, or they're believing something that's causing the problem, and they think it's their partner. So when you're having a bad experience, it's 100% up to you to figure that out and figure out what's going on with you. And also, your relationship status is no indication of your mental wellness. So along the lines of how I can be a single relationship coach, it takes a high level of awareness and willingness to take care of your mental wellness, your mental health, right? And sometimes Stephen says, you are very beautiful. Oh, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, my sweetheart. Compliments all the way from Scotland. I love it. It takes a lot to really, take care of your mental well-being in a way that you can support and coach with others. And really what you want is somebody who's willing to do that, willing to take care of their wellness. So here's the thing. We're at 8:55. I just want to tell you guys who you should be seeking support from. Anybody who's out there questioning, whether they're going to get support, whether they're going to get a coach or a therapist or somebody that's going to help them. Here's what you should be looking for, rather than whether that person is single or not, or whatever other external bullshit you try to use as a litmus test to see whether they're good enough. Here's what you got to look for. Anybody who consistently encourages you to be powerful and responsible in your own life. That's going to be a good coach, a good therapist for you to have. A coach or therapist who stands for your highest good and your highest self, always relates with you as your powerful self. Doesn't let you argue and win for your limitations. Doesn't co-sign with you on the what I can't do and what I'm not good at and all of that stuff. That's not a good coach. That might be your girlfriends, your homies or whatever who'll co-sign with your limitations, but a coach won't do that. Someone who is on their own journey of self-love and mastery. So whether they're in a relationship or not, you want to work with somebody who is on their own journey and understands that life is a journey and understands that no one is in a space where they've figured it all out and has all the answers. Nobody has all of your answers. Only you. You're the only one who has all of your answers. And someone who inspires you to listen to and to trust yourself. That's what you want to look for in a coach. None of the other stuff matters. None of the other things that we try to espouse to. Don't go to somebody because they've been married for 10 years because you don't know what's going on in that marriage. Go to somebody who's going to help you get to the heart of what you need, get to the heart of what you want to understand. And I wrote these bullets. Fact is, no one else knows your answers or the exact advice to give you when dealing with the desires of your own heart. However, what we can do is guide each other to understanding ourselves and trusting our own answers when we uncloud them from our limiting beliefs. When we get rid of our limiting beliefs, we can get to our own answers. And making generalizations for how people should be dealt with is counterintuitive to having happy love experiences, and it reinforces those limited beliefs. So stop listening to those people that are generalizing what you should do, whether you're single or in a relationship. There's no rules out there for what you should do because everybody's situation is different. Yeah, there's some structure that could be in place, but until you've gotten self-healed and self-accepted and are unapologetically you and understanding how to fill yourself up, none of those rules and tips and tricks and stuff are going to actually give you a good outcome. The ultimate key is self-mastery through radical self-acceptance. The journey is to understand that you that despite everything you've been through, you are enough. You are enough. Whether or not you're in a relationship, you are 100% enough. Whether you're employed, whether you're making a certain amount of money, no matter where you're at, you are enough in life. So that's it. 8:58. I know that the Armed Radio people are going to be leaving us very soon. I can't believe this hour went by so fast. VAMP class is coming up. It's my movement and meditation class. I'm going to be teaching it in North Jersey. I'm going to put the link on this post so you guys can take the survey, because I want to know, like, logistically what's going to work for you guys. My book, I'm Not Mad, But She's Still Crazy, Getting Right with Mom for the Sake of My Love Life. I'm finishing that up this month. I'm using National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo. Oh, I got a minute left with Armed Radio. I just got poked. Armed Radio, thank you so much for being here. Everybody who's listening out there in the listening world, never forget that you're a love machine. If you ever start to feel like you're not getting enough, just make more and ask for candy. I love you so much for being here. Also, those of you who are on the Facebook, the Epic Intensive, Are You an Abused Daughter Raised by an Abused Daughter? Coming up, registration for the Epic Intensive. It opens up very soon for January. EPIC stands for Empowering Practice for Intimate Connections, and the focus will be getting right with mom for the sake of your love life. So if you want to learn more about that, just be on my business page. Click, I think, Learn More, and then you can find out more information about that. Follow me on Instagram at Ask for Candy Podcast and at Candy Love Coach. Also, the most recent podcasts have been posted to YouTube, so you can watch them on YouTube. I also am starting a vlog. I've only done one so far. It's totally like, I don't know, it's total experiment. It's a total journey. It's very choppy. Feel free to subscribe and, follow the blog. And, thank you too much, Kenya. And Stephen says, guidedness is the key. Yes, thank you, Stephen. You're absolutely right. So until next time, never forget you're a love machine. If you ever start to feel like you aren't getting the love you need, just make more and ask for candy. Thank you so much. You guys that are on the Facebook, thank you so much for being here. My Kenya, as always, I love you so much. Beth, Stephen, who joined us all the way from Scotland, it's been a pleasure. Reach out to me, say hello, all that good stuff. I've had a blast. And I can't believe this hour has already gone by. And I'll see you next week.